We are on the lunch break in the questioning of former Metropolitan Police Commissioner Paul Condon, the undercover policing inquiry. He has been questioned further about his knowledge of the Special Demonstration Squad as in his time and role. We've just been looking at the annual report of 1996-97, which gives a very glowing, positive representation of the SDS. Paul Condon has taken issue with the inquiry, claiming that with the speed and the day-to-day nature of his role, he couldn't possibly have been expected to consider the contents of that report in anything other than the light that they were presented to him. I'm joined by Dave Morris, regular of this parish. What do you make of Paul Condon's evidence today?
Absolutely fantastic. This is an utter 100%. No compromise, total damnation of the SDS, and all of the supervision from the top to the bottom. And he's basically saying the fault is the Metropolitan Police. I mean, there's no way that the SDS can possibly recover from today's evidence. From the top guy, which is the commissioner. He was the commissioner of the police, for, I don't know, 10 years?
Well, 93 to 2000. He's said in very unequivocal terms that the blame should not lie just with individual officers, but with the Metropolitan Police itself over the decades.
And all the supervision or lack of it.
For every day telling these officers to go out to lie, cheat and steal. And then it was no wonder that even someone with a strong moral compass would end up corrupted by that kind of job.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, it was, he said that the SDS was doing the wrong thing in the wrong place, in the wrong way. So, obviously, hopefully we'll get more. When he's presented with the he basically said that, what he would have received is basically glowing reports of particular incidents or the annual reports, self-aggrandizement.
That was his line,
yeah. He said that other units in the police force had been riddled with corruption, small units, very much the model of the SDS, which were small units with the same personnel being recycled and becoming managers and they'd been closed down. He'd closed down other units. He said the Special Patrol Group who murdered Blair Peach, they got closed down fairly soon afterwards. Where do you start really with this evidence today?
I mean, I think aside from his blanket condemnation, which has been repeated a number of times, he has, when it comes to his own role and his own knowledge of events, he has, despite saying that he had an excellent memory and that memory loss has not been an issue for him at any point, he has claimed that perhaps his memory has failed him, perhaps he's having a senior moment, but he has no knowledge of anything which makes him look bad. I'm
taking to me, it's not that significant. He's remembered quite a bit. And when it comes to individual incidents or individual officers or individual controversies, he says, well, it might have gone across his desk, but he doesn't necessarily read stuff that goes across his desk. He has other people who read it and, respond or file it away or stick it in the bin or whatever. Should the hierarchy of the police at the very top have known about this, what the unit was really doing? He basically says that that's the job of all the supervisors who've all given evidence.
Yep.
The DCIs and the commanders and so on. And of course they've all said, oh, we didn't know what was going on. It was all somebody else's fault. Basically, most of them have basically said all the corruption and wrongdoing and bad practice in the SDS was really the fault of the officers.
Yeah.
But the officers obviously were just doing what they were told.
Sure.
They were told to go out and get, certain kinds of, end products intelligence reports. I think in the early 80s, one of the undercover officers who'd infiltrated a group I was involved with, London Workers Group.
Yeah.
He, you know, he was basically saying, well, they're not really doing anything, that really warrants infiltration. The same with another group that I was involved with, Anarchy Magazine. The officer that infiltrated Anarchy Magazine, but basically saying the same, and so in the early 80s, I think when the guy that infiltrated London Workers Group, when he was finished his deployment, they said, well, he didn't really come up with much useful. His seniors were saying that this officer was, quote, unproductive. And I think there was a sea change in the early 80s. Let's get some officers in who can be productive. And Lambert was one of the first ones recruited after that point. And then they started generating and inventing and framing people and exaggerating. And I think from that moment on, the product became much more exciting and sexy and interesting and sensational, and justified the continuance of the unit, even though 90% of it was made up.
Yeah, we've heard from David Barr, KC, who's doing the questioning today, about the internal public relations exercise that was the way that the SDS was kind of was having fairly sort of minor stuff being presented in front of the Commissioner of the Police. Why was it that he was being shown these things about we've stopped a blockading of a bridge and we've stopped this? And he's this is what led Condon to refer to the self-aggrandizement of the unit, that it required this level of internal PR in order to keep the unit going.
Yeah, that was from Commander Pearce. I suppose any hierarchy works in that way, is that, the people at the bottom, constantly trying to, play up how brilliant they are and to keep their jobs, basically. And the people at the top, constantly trying to keep, everybody obeying orders at the levels below. So that's how hierarchies work, which obviously, if we had a world that didn't have hierarchies, just had people communicating and sharing and making collaborative decisions together for the good of everybody, we wouldn't have these kind of problems. So the institutions that are hierarchies, armies, police forces, corporations, they all have this internal culture. Where, at every level, people are trying to big up how brilliant they are to the ones above. And the ones above are constantly trying to, just tell everybody else below them what to do. And everyone's just trying to justify their existence. And no one's really looking at the reality of what's going on.
Yeah.
When we had this with McDonald's, I was sued by McDonald's for criticising them. The McLibel trial, and we had their senior executives and members of the board of directors in the witness box, sometimes for weeks at a time, and it's all, these are propagandists, trying to justify. Turns out that, of course, McDonald's was absolutely riddled with bad practice and illegalities and what they called corporate. Well, everyone had to sign up to the corporate goals.
Well, we
just like the police force, they all sign up to,
Well, we had that exact thing, didn't we, from Paul Condon this morning? He talked about how he assumed that every police officer was following the law, that every police officer was following the code of conduct, that every police officer was following best practice, which, and that was his base level that he assumed. However, earlier on today, he talked about the fact that he had identified at least as many as 200 officers who were involved in serious criminality, including murder, that he had in the Met, that he needed a change of the rules so that he could get rid of. Now, if that's the case, then why was he also assuming that everything was absolutely fine with the SDS? He really has contradicted himself a number of times on that.
He basically said that he's relying on the immediate supervisors and their supervisors, to deal with any kind of problematic issues. But as we know from this inquiry, this inquiry is very interesting because it shows the kind of culture within hierarchies. And as we know, now know with the SDS, the people above were covering up, turning a blind eye, covering up, encouraging but not writing down, bad practice. There's a whole culture of corruption and self-aggrandizement, at every level, basically, above the SDS.
Yeah.
Where when it suits them, they don't know anything. The whole sexual relationships thing, it's unbelievable that all the hierarchy weren't aware above, within the SDS and above it, what was going on. I mean, there were lots of clues. And they clearly had a policy of don't ask, don't tell, or encouraging it, and just make sure you don't ever write it down on paper. Otherwise, you're going to be out.
Yeah.
Because they'll have to do something.
Yeah, we've had this talked about today quite a bit as well, about the oral briefings. The oral briefings when everything was written down, which seems to have been a huge facilitator of some of the worst of the bad behaviour. We've had some comments. One here: a self-aggrandizing narcissist admits that a self-aggrandizing force creates a climate where corruption is inevitable. I mean, absolutely, pretty damning. You would have thunk it. Yeah, I mean, very much a situation where it's almost no wonder it all went so horribly wrong when you consider the way in which the organisation operates across the board.
I mean, this is the whole way that our society operates, and that's why we have a hierarchical society with people at the top, the rich and powerful. Acting in their own self-interest while trying to pretend, of course, that they're doing great works for the public. But this is the problem with our society as well. We've got, poverty, we've got environmental collapse, we've got oppression and repression and exploitation of workers. It's the kind of society that we have, and they're constantly pumping out propaganda in the media and any way they can to justify how actually these ones, the ones in power, are really doing a great job, and then the people that challenge it, like ourselves, we're the ones who are targeted for this undercover policing and our activities repressed or, monitored, disrupted. But it shows that we're right, that actually we are a threat to the state, because we want a better world. We want a world which people are in control and making the right decisions, unlike at the current time. So it's interesting. I've got actually nothing personally against, commissioners of the police or even the undercover officers. You feel it personally. I mean, it's easy to see them, get personal about it, but the problem is the system, the machinery,
absolutely,
of control and repression.
Is the banality of evil, right? It's
banal.
It's
banal.
Yeah.
Routine.
There is it's a very busy public gallery today, busier than it has been for a while. There is even a member of the press in the public gallery, which is unusual. We hope that perhaps something will appear on Channel 4 News about today.
I mean, I have to say that the stuff coming out of this inquiry is sensational. It should be front page news. It's incredible. And it's just not getting the publicity that it should be. And I think the reason for that is what the media hate more than anything else is lefties. They hate giving, credit to left-wing organisations and campaigners for being right. We were right all along. We've been right to expose this unit. We've been right to come to the inquiry and tell the truth. And I think the inquiry itself has been shocked. The judge and the barristers doing the questioning, they've just been shocked about the evidence that's come out, the evasion and lies from the police or ex-police witnesses. And in fact, this witness has been a revelation, I think, for the inquiry. He's come and he's not trying to justify this unit in any way.
No,
he's not saying, well, don't forget all the good work they did apart from all the bad stuff. He's not saying that. He's just saying utterly it was completely unacceptable, and the police have to take responsibility, not just the individual officers involved.
Yeah. Well, the only coverage of the inquiry that's ongoing and regular is here. So, please continue to like and share. Thank you, everybody who does. Just one more comment here from Nottingham Green Festival. Thank you for all that you do. I hope that all will support your work. Oh, then there's a link there. Someone's put a link to my Ko-fi, which is where you can donate to support this coverage. Please do so if you're able to. Makes a huge difference to my ability to continue. Well, thanks for that. Anything else you'd like to add, Dave? All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll do another. There's going to be more breaks. We're having a break every hour now, so there'll be more break. The next break, I guess, will be about 3:10 because we've overrun slightly for the last one. So please join us then. See you later. Bye for now.